Hey guys, and welcome to another Voxel Engine update video. Sorry this video took so long to make. I was kind of busy with schoolwork this week, and I wanted to make sure that all of my features were ready for y'all to see. I have added plant life to all of the biomes, as you can see here. There's, I think, 14 different types of plants consisting of different grasses and flowers and things like that. The plants as well as the tree leaves sway in the wind, as you can see here, and I'll show you some tree leaves. I'll show you other biomes later in the video, like savannas and others, that have really been affected by the addition of Flora. It really makes everything look a lot more realistic and more interesting. It does add a lot of complexity to the scene, which lowers frame rates slightly, but it isn't too bad, and you can actually go into the options menu and lower the polygon count on the Flora. I'll show you that. This is the options menu. There's a lot of things you can change. You can change the amount of time devoted to loading chunks. You can enable and disable particles, and this fancy graphics option is what changes the meshes of the floor and things like that. And it also makes the trees revert back to their old ugly ways, but it's more for people who have lower end PCs. I like to keep it on just because it looks a lot better. Okay, if you look over here, you will see that mountains look much different. I refined the terrain generator to produce more realistic results, and I applied a texture to the terrain. So you get a lot more peaks and things like that on the mountain. It actually uses something called fractal ridge simplex noise, which is what causes all these little ridges you see here. Okay, so right now I am 25,000 blocks up in the Y direction, and I'm on top of a tip-top peak of that mountain you saw. Right now I think the render distance is set at 655 kilometers. You can change this to whatever you want. I wanted to give people a lot of flexibility on the render distance, so I made you able to go all the way up to 1400 kilometers, which is unrealistically far, and it kind of makes the world look fake because the fog doesn't really obscure the terrain, since in order to see that far you have to have very little fog. There we go. So yeah, this is something like, I don't know, 1400 kilometers. I guess this all of this area is probably like the surface area of most of North America. Something insanely large like that. These mountains themselves are actually fairly large, and walking down them is not something you would really want to do. So that's why I have aerial vehicles planned. Ooh, what's that? And there's a bug that I need to fix. Behind the scenes. Alright, I'm going to show you guys some of the water changes I've had and the explosions that I've added. Okay, so I also added a few changes to the water engine to make it faster and more fluid, and I added explosions into the game so that I could test the water engine on a bit of a larger scale. Each block has a explosion resistance value that causes it to resist explosions, basically, and explosions themselves will apply a force to the particles when blocks are broken. So that's why you get this huge flying particle effect. I want to add actual explosion particles to it, like flames and things like that, to make it look a lot more realistic, possibly a shockwave. I'm going to spend a lot more time on explosions in the future and try to get entities like grenades and nukes, different kinds of explosions. I think it'll be really fun. Right now, since I'm running on my laptop, it's kind of struggling with the particles, so I'm going to go ahead and turn those off so that I can show you the water physics on a larger scale. I promise that I will do another video, hopefully in the next week or so, on my desktop that has a GTX 680 and an i7, and it should be able to run some really cool water simulation kind of things, and I'll just do a whole bunch of large-scale physics with it, just as a sorry for how long this video took. The only reason I'm not recording on my desktop is because there's some kind of bug in my program that's causing the game to crash on NVIDIA cards, so I have to get that sorted out first. But anyways, so explosions will cause a cavity that the water fills up pretty quickly. I did not turn off particles. There we go. Okay, particles are off now. after these despawn, no more will come. But yep, so water will flow in just like before. It's a little bit faster. You probably can't really tell, but I just made a few modifications that I felt were a little more realistic. But let me give it, okay, it's full time. So you can pretty much just drain anything you want with explosions. You can sink a lake if you have enough TNT or whatever. You can do basically anything you want. And that's what I'm going for in this game, is just for you to play around and do whatever you want. And oh, got some work to do, guys, but thanks for watching, you guys, and try to get these issues sorted out. I'll go ahead, oh, that's right, I'll go ahead and show you guys the different biomes now, so that you can get a feel of how the game is looking. This is the deciduous forest. Looks about the same, other than, of course, the Flora, but as you can see, the Flora really just makes everything look a whole lot better, and I think I'm going to actually want to add like little stone formations that aren't block shaped, but use the marching cubes algorithm or something like that to make some really cool like simulated cliff kind of things, because since I'm not using a three-dimensional noise function, I can't have any overhangs, so I actually want to try to place overhangs with a separate algorithm so that this game is interesting and it's not just kind of flat terrain everywhere. Okay, next up I'll show you some savanna. This is the savanna. There's not a whole lot in it right now. There's only two types of plants, the dry grass and then the yellow savanna grass. And the trees being used are actually jungle trees. They're just kind of like placeholders until I actually make a specific savanna tree, but I actually think it looks pretty cool. Let me get some lions in here, something crazy like that. Okay, what's next? Okay, so this is the jungle, and it is definitely my favorite right now. I added a whole lot to the jungle to make it look really dense. I made a lot of trees spawn, and I made a whole bunch of different plants for the jungle. The only problem is, because the jungle is so dense, there's millions and millions of polygons. I think there's about 6 million if you use a medium-sized chunk world, and even more if you go higher. So in the options menu, I of course made a horizontal chunks option where you could change the size of the world. Otherwise it would just be insane. I think I'm getting about like 20 frames per second. Yeah, it's about 20 something frames per second. If we switch to the low graphics instead of the fancy graphics, that'll probably help. Getting about 30 now. Yeah, jungles will be the only issue, I think, for older computers. So I'll try to work around that and maybe do a few optimizations, but I just don't want to make the jungles any less dense, because they're really fun right now. You can pretty much get lost in them, and I'm going to actually have vines and things hanging down, and probably some large bushes and things like that, because I really want it to look like a jungle, not just trees and grass and stuff. So yeah, that's about it, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll try to get another video out this week of my fast computer doing some cool stuff. I'll see you guys later. Thanks a lot. Don't forget to subscribe and like.